The snow was falling slowly, white flakes covering the wooden roofs of the small outpost. The place was far from the big cities, far from order, a rough place where traders, hunters, and wanderers came to sell whatever they could catch. In the middle of the outpost stood a rusty iron cage, its bars dark with age and frost. Inside the cage sat an alien woman, her skin pale with a light shade of violet, her hair long and silver like frozen light, her eyes glowing faintly in the cold. Her armor was broken, scratched from battles long past. Her arms and legs carried marks of chains and struggle. The traders around the cage laughed and drank, pointing at her as if she was nothing more than a beast. "She is worthless," one said, "not even worth the bullets to guard her. No one will buy her," another spat. "Her kind is cursed, better left to rot." The alien woman stayed silent, her hands resting on her knees, her gaze hard, her lips pressed tight, her eyes carried fire, but also deep sadness, a sadness too heavy for words. No one in the outpost cared. No one saw her as more than a strange creature caught in a trap. But then, through the falling snow, a man arrived. He was a wanderer, tall and broad, his beard thick and his clothes rough with dirt and travel. He had a scar across his cheek, and his eyes were sharp like cold steel. He moved with the weight of someone who had walked too far and fought too much. He came not for trade, not for drink, but searching for supplies. Yet something else caught his attention. The moment he saw the cage, he stopped. The laughter of the traders seemed to fade for him. The snow seemed to quiet. His eyes locked on the alien woman, and in that instant, he felt something. Not fear, not greed, but a strange pull, as if fate had grabbed his chest and refused to let go. He stepped closer, his boots crunching on the snow. The traders noticed and called out, "You like her, stranger? Worth nothing she is, not even fit for labor." Another laughed, "If you want her, take her. We will not stop you, but don't come crying when she curses your blood." The man said nothing, his eyes still on the woman. She lifted her head slowly and stared back at him. Her violet eyes glowed brighter, full of anger, pride, and something hidden, something broken. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, she looked at someone not with hate, but with curiosity. The wind howled between the wooden huts, pushing snow into the faces of the crowd. The cage rattled in the cold as the woman shifted slightly. The man's hand went to his belt, where tools and weapons hung. The traders whispered now, uncertain. "Why do you stare, human?" one asked with a sneer. "Do you think she is beautiful? She is not yours. She belongs to no one." The man's voice came at last, low and steady. "How much?" The crowd went silent. The words cut through the air like a blade. The alien woman's eyes widened slightly, not in hope, but in shock. No one had asked that question before, not since she was taken. The traders blinked, then burst into laughter. "How much? For her? She is not worth a single coin," one said. "Take her if you want, fool," another shouted. "Better you than us. Her kind brings only death." The man did not laugh. He did not smile. He stepped closer to the cage, snow falling on his shoulders, his eyes steady. The woman's breath came faster now, though she tried to hide it. Who was this human, and why did he care? The cage door creaked as the trader slammed his boot against it, swinging it open. "Go on then, wanderer," he said. "If you want her, take her, but don't blame us when she kills you in your sleep." The crowd jeered and spat, but none dared step closer. The man's hand reached forward, the cold iron bars biting against his skin. The alien woman's heart pounded, though she kept her face cold. For years she had been called nothing, treated as nothing. But this moment was different. This moment was strange. The snow fell harder, the sky above dark with storm clouds. The traders grew restless, watching, waiting. The man looked at her and spoke only one line. "You do not belong in a cage." The words echoed in her mind, words she had not heard in a long time. And for the first time, she felt a spark inside her chest. Not freedom yet, not safety, but something dangerous. Hope. The outpost went quiet. Every eye on the cage, every breath held. The storm outside roared louder, and somewhere, far above, the sky flashed with strange lights. The alien woman and the human locked eyes, bound by something unseen, and the world around them shifted, as if fate itself was holding its breath. The cage door stood open, the cold wind pushing against its rusty hinges. The crowd of traders and hunters waited, their breath rising like smoke in the winter air. They wanted to see what the stranger would do. Would he take the alien woman, or would he turn away, like all others before him? The alien woman sat still, her hands resting on her knees, her glowing eyes fixed on the man. She did not move, did not speak, for she had learned silence was safer. Yet in her chest, her heart beat fast, as if warning her of something dangerous. This human was different. She could see it in his eyes. Not the greed of traders, not the cruelty of hunters, but something harder to read. The man stepped inside the cage, boots crunching against the frozen ground. He crouched down to her level, ignoring the laughter and whispers behind him. For a long moment, they only stared at each other. Her gaze was sharp, proud, unwilling to bow. His was steady, filled with questions he did not yet ask. "You are free now," he said at last, his voice low, almost lost in the storm. She gave a bitter smile, sharp like a blade. "Free," she whispered. "Look around you, human. There is no freedom here, only chains." Her voice was soft, but it carried weight, a melody from another world. The man reached into his pack and pulled out a thick cloth, wrapping it around her shoulders. The traders jeered. "Look at him! The fool gives her clothes. Next he will give her food." Another shouted, "Better watch your back, stranger. Her kind will slit your throat the moment you sleep." But the man ignored them. He only said, "Stand. You cannot stay here." Slowly, with effort, the woman rose, her legs weak, but her eyes still fierce. The chains on her wrists clinked as she moved, heavy with frost. He drew a knife and with one swift motion cut through the iron links. The sound rang out like thunder, and the crowd gasped. No one had freed her before. No one had dared. The alien woman's arms trembled as she lowered them, the weight finally gone. For a moment she looked at her wrists, the scars, the freedom, and her lips parted as if she might speak. But no words came, only silence. The man guided her out of the cage, step by step. The traders spat on the ground, muttering curses. "He will regret this," one said. "She is cursed, and now so is he," another hissed. Outside the cage, the storm grew stronger, the wind biting against their skin. The alien woman lifted her head, staring at the falling snow. For the first time since her capture, she was standing under the open sky. A single tear slid down her cheek, but she wiped it away quickly, refusing to show weakness. The man spoke again. "My name is Kael." She turned to him, her voice low, cautious. "Why do you tell me this? Do you expect mine in return?" He shook his head. "No, but I will not walk beside a ghost." For a moment, her glowing eyes softened and she said, "Lyra." The name cut through the cold, sharp and beautiful. The traders behind them heard it and murmured with fear. One whispered, "I know that name. It belongs to the fallen empire, the one we destroyed." Another replied, "Then she is not worthless. She is dangerous." Kael heard their words but said nothing. He placed his hand gently on Lyra's arm and guided her toward the edge of the outpost. The crowd parted, some laughing, some spitting, some watching with dark eyes. No one tried to stop them, but no one wished them well. As they walked into the snow, Lyra asked quietly, "Why? Why do you do this? You do not know me. You do not know what I am." Kael's voice was calm. "I know enough. You were in a cage, and cages are for beasts, not for people." Lyra turned her face away, her hair whipping in the wind. Her chest ached with strange feeling, one she had not allowed herself in years. Hope, but she buried it quickly. For hope was dangerous. Hope could be broken. Behind them, the traders gathered close, speaking in harsh whispers. "He should not have taken her," one said. "She will bring death." "Send word to the hunters," another said. "They will want her back." And so, unseen, a shadow began to follow Kael and Lyra into the storm. The snow grew thicker, the sky darker. Kael tightened his grip on his pack, his eyes sharp against the wind. He did not know where this path would lead, only that it was one he could not turn from. Lyra walked beside him, silent, watching him from the corner of her eyes. She wondered if he was a fool, or if he was something more. Far in the distance, lightning split the sky, but it was not the lightning of nature. It was a signal, bright and strange. Lyra's heart froze, for she knew what it meant. Her people were searching, and they would not stop until they found her. The storm, wallowed their tracks as the two figures walked into the white wasteland. Behind them, voices of greed and fear plotted in the dark. Ahead of them, danger waited in the snow. And above them, the stars shifted, as if watching. The human had made his choice, and that choice would change everything. The storm had grown wild, snow whipping across the empty land like knives of ice. Kael and Lyra moved quickly, leaving the outpost behind, their footprints already fading under the heavy wind. The white wasteland stretched endlessly before them, a desert of frozen silence. Every step was heavy, every breath burned with cold, but Kael pushed forward, his eyes searching for shelter. Lyra walked beside him, her silver hair blowing like fire in the storm, her glowing eyes sharp and restless. She kept glancing at him, studying the human who had chosen chains for himself when he freed her. She did not trust him, not yet. Trust was a luxury she had lost long ago, but there was something about him that unsettled her, something that made her want to look closer. Behind them, far back in the storm, shadows moved. Hunters, trackers, men who wanted her back in the cage. Their voices carried faintly in the wind, cruel laughter and the sound of weapons. Cale knew they were being followed. He could feel it in the way the snow carried echoes. They stopped near a broken ridge where stone rose from the ice like jagged teeth. Cale guided Lyra into the shelter of the rocks, his breath steaming. "We rest here," he said, his voice firm. "The storm will cover us for a while." Lyra crossed her arms, her expression sharp. "And then? Do you think they will stop chasing? Do you think the snow will protect us?" Cale looked at her, his eyes steady. "No, but running without rest will kill us faster." For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the howling wind. Then Cale reached into his pack and lit a small fire, the flames struggling against the storm. The glow lit her face, casting shadows in her alien features, too beautiful and too strange for this world. She watched him work, cutting strips of dried meat, handing one to her. She stared at it, suspicion in her eyes. "Do you think I need your food?" Cale shrugged. "Eat or don't, your choice, but I will not let you freeze while I eat." She hesitated, then took the food, her fingers brushing his hand, cold and trembling. The taste was rough, human food, but warm, and it reminded her of something she had not felt in a long time. Survival shared, not stolen. She said nothing, but her eyes softened for a brief moment before she turned away. The fire crackled, and the storm raged above them. Cale studied her quietly, noticing the faint scars on her wrists where chains had bitten deep. He wondered what she had been before the cage, what kind of life had been stolen from her, but he did not ask, for he knew wounds were not healed with questions. Instead, Lyra was the one who spoke, her voice low, almost lost to the wind. "You are a fool, human," she said. "You risked your life for nothing, for someone who cannot repay you." Cale smirked, his eyes on the fire. "Maybe I am a fool, but I do not care. I saw someone in a cage and I could not walk away." Her eyes narrowed, searching him, trying to see if he lied, but she found only truth in his voice, and that made her chest tighten with feelings she did not want. She turned her gaze to the storm, hiding her thoughts. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the night, the crack of metal against stone. Cale's hand flew to his weapon, pulling the rifle from his back. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her muscles tense. The hunters had found them. Figures moved in the snow, dark shapes with weapons and armor, their voices carrying through the storm. "There they are," one shouted. "The alien and her human pet." Lyra's hands clenched, her heart pounding with rage and fear. Cale stood in front of her, rifle raised, his voice steady. "Stay behind me." But Lyra's pride burned. "I am not helpless," she said, stepping forward, her voice sharp. Cale glanced at her, surprised, as she lifted her hands. From her palms, a faint glow sparked, strange light that danced in the snow. The hunters hesitated, fear flashing in their eyes. "She still has power," one muttered. "Be careful." The storm screamed around them as the battle began. Cale fired, the shot echoing across the white land. One hunter fell, blood staining the snow. Lyra unleashed a burst of energy, a wave of light that struck the ground, sending two hunters crashing into the ice. Her breath came fast, her body trembling, for every use of her power drained her, but her eyes shone like fire, no longer caged, no longer silent. Cale fought with skill, moving like a man who had lived through too many battles. Together, human and alien held their ground. The hunters, shocked by her strength and his stubbornness, began to retreat into the storm. But before they vanished, one shouted back, "You cannot run forever. More will come. Armies will come." The fire flickered low, their breaths heavy, the snow already covering the bodies of the fallen. Cale turned to Lyra, his voice calm but firm. "We have to keep moving. We cannot stay here." Lyra nodded, though her pride kept her silent. Inside, she felt a strange warmth, not from the fire, not from her power, but from the human who had fought beside her. The storm swallowed the night, and the two figures moved again into the endless white. Every step forward was dangerous, but they walked side by side. Somewhere in the darkness above, lights flashed again, alien signals moving across the stars. Lyra's heart sank, for she knew the hunters were only the beginning, but she also felt something she had not felt since her people had fallen. A fragile, dangerous spark, hope. The storm eased as the long night ended, the snow clouds breaking to reveal a pale morning sky. Kale and Lyra walked slowly across the frozen wasteland, their bodies tired, their breath heavy, but their spirits unbroken. They had fought off the hunters, but both knew more would come, stronger and faster. The world was not finished with them yet. Kale led the way toward a ridge of black stone that rose above the endless white. There, under the cover of rock, he found a cave, hidden and quiet, safe enough for a moment's rest. Inside, he built another small fire, the flames flickering weakly but pushing back the cold. Lyra sat across from him, her glowing eyes fixed on the firelight, her face unreadable. Kale studied her silently, his mind heavy with questions. She was no ordinary captive, no simple alien. Her power had burned in the night, light from her hands that struck fear into the hunters. It was something strange, something dangerous, something powerful. At last he spoke, his voice low. "What are you hiding? Why do they fear you so much?" Lyra's gaze lifted to his, sharp and cold. "You freed me, human, but do not mistake that for trust." Kale did not back away, his eyes steady. "Trust or not, you carry something more than scars. I can see it. I can feel it." The silence between them grew heavy, filled with the sound of fire and distant wind. Finally, Lyra sighed, her shoulders lowering, as if a burden pressed too hard to carry alone. "You want the truth? Then listen," she said, her voice like steel, wrapped in sorrow. "I am not just a prisoner," she whispered. "I am the last daughter of a fallen empire. My people once ruled the stars, but greed and betrayal brought us down. The humans and other races tore our fleets apart. They hunted us to extinction." Her hands clenched into fists, her glowing eyes bright with rage and grief. "I was taken not because I was weak, but because I carry knowledge, secrets of my people's power, secrets that could change the balance of the galaxy." Kale leaned forward, his jaw tight. "What kind of secrets?" Her gaze burned into him. "Technology beyond your kind's imagination, weapons that can end worlds, ships that can cross the stars without fuel, machines that heal flesh and bone, all locked in memory that only I can unlock." Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with the weight of what she carried. Kale sat back, his mind racing. He understood now why the traders called her cursed, why the hunters followed. She was not worthless, she was priceless, and that made her more dangerous than any weapon he had ever held. Lyra lowered her eyes, her voice softer now. "I should be dead, yet I live, and so long as I live, every empire will hunt me, use me, or kill me." Her words hung in the cold cave, heavy and sharp. She looked at Kyle with bitterness. "Now you see, human, why you were a fool to free me. You have tied yourself to my curse." But Kyle did not flinch, his voice steady as stone. "Maybe so, but I made my choice, and I will not abandon it." Lyra blinked, surprised by the strength in his words. She expected fear, or greed, or betrayal, but instead she found only resolve. A strange warmth stirred in her chest. Though she buried it quickly, the fire cracked, shadows shifting on the cave walls. Outside, the storm roared again, as if the world itself was listening to their words. Kale leaned closer, his voice low. "Then tell me this. What do you want? To run forever? To fight until the galaxy crushes you?" Lyra's lips pressed tight, her eyes dark. Finally, she whispered, "I want my people to live again. I want my name to mean something more than ashes." The firelight glowed in her silver hair, casting her in beauty both fragile and fierce. Kale nodded slowly. "Then we will find a way." She frowned, her voice sharp. "You speak as if it is simple, as if a lone human can fight the galaxy." He gave a small smile, weary but strong. "I've fought worse odds before." Her gaze lingered on him, searching, testing. For a brief moment, she almost believed him. But before she could speak, a sound echoed from outside, sharp and metallic, the cry of an engine in the distance, cutting through the storm. Lyra froze, her blood running cold. "They found us," she whispered, her voice heavy with dread. Kale grabbed his rifle, moving to the mouth of the cave. Through the swirling snow, he saw lights, bright and unnatural, moving fast across the ridge. Not hunters this time, but machines, drones of war, scanning the wasteland with beams of red light. Lyra's face went pale. "They are military, not traders. They come for me." Kale's grip tightened on his weapon, his eyes sharp. He looked back at her and said, "Then they will have to fight for you." The cave shook as the drones drew closer, the hum of engines filling the air like thunder. Lyra's heart pounded, her mind torn between fear and defiance. The secret she carried, the truth of her bloodline, had brought the storm upon them. But now, with Kale at her side, something inside her whispered that maybe, just maybe, she would not face it alone. The snow outside glowed with red light, Shadows of machines moving in the storm. Kale raised his rifle. Lyra's hands glowed with alien fire, and the white wasteland held its breath for the battle to come. The red lights of the drones cut across the storm, beams of energy sweeping over the frozen ridge. Kale stood at the mouth of the cave, rifle steady, his breath clouding in the icy air. Beside him, Lyra's hands glowed with faint violet fire. Our eyes burning brighter as the machines drew near. The silence before the clash was heavy, broken only by the hum of engines and the beating of their hearts. Then the drones struck, beams of light shooting through the snow, melting stone and shattering ice. Kale fired back, his rifle cracking through the storm, sparks exploding as one machine fell from the sky. Lyra unleashed her power, a wave of light that burst from her palms, tearing through metal like paper, the air filled with smoke, fire, and the sharp scent of burning steel. But more drones came, swarming like insects, circling above. Kale reloaded, his hands quick, his eyes fierce. He fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Lyra fought like a queen torn from her throne, rage and sorrow pouring from her like flame. At last, the final drone crashed into the snow, fire licking its broken frame. The ridge fell quiet again, save for the crackle of flames and the echo of the storm. Kale lowered his weapon, his chest heaving. Lyra's glow faded, her shoulders trembling from the strain. "You see," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "They will never stop. They will send more. Always more." Kale turned to her, his jaw set. "Then we keep fighting." But even as he spoke, he knew the storm of enemies was growing too large, too close. From the shadows of the ridge, movement stirred. Figures stepped forward, not drones, but men, wrapped in armor and cloaks, their weapons gleaming. At their front walked a face Kale knew, a face he never thought he would see in this frozen wasteland. "Rogan," Kale muttered, his grip tightening on his rifle. Rogan was a soldier once, a comrade from wars long past. He had fought beside Kale in the ashes of ruined cities, his laughter once strong, his aim steady, but now his eyes were colder, harder, his smile cruel. "You always were stubborn, Kale," Rogan said, his voice carrying through the snow, always dragging weight that should be left behind. Kale lifted his weapon, his voice sharp. "What are you doing here?" Rogan's smile widened. "Following orders, same as always. This alien belongs to the highest bidder, and I aim to deliver." Lyra's eyes narrowed, her glow returning faintly. "You betrayed your own kind for gold." Rogan chuckled darkly. "Gold? No. Something greater. Power, protection, survival. Things you know nothing about." The soldiers with him aimed their rifles, the red lights dancing over Kale and Lyra. Kale stood tall, though the numbers were against him. "You'll have to kill me first," he said, his voice steady as stone. Rogan shook his head. "No, old friend. I don't want you dead. I want you smart. Hand her over, and I'll let you walk away." For a moment the storm seemed to hold still. Kale's mind raced, but his heart gave only one answer. "No," he said, his voice like iron. "I won't abandon her." The silence cracked like ice. Rogan's face hardened, his smile gone. "Then you've chosen your grave," he said, lifting his hand. The soldiers moved forward, weapons ready. Lyra stepped closer to Kale, her voice low, urgent. "You don't have to do this. They want me, not you." Kale glanced at her, his eyes fierce. "I told you, you are not a ghost. I will not let them take you." Her chest ached at his words, her hands glowing brighter with power she could barely hold back. For a moment she almost believed they could fight their way out. But then something unexpected happened. One of the soldiers stepped forward, pulling down his hood. It was a face Kale knew too well, another from his past. Darren, a man Kale once called brother, stood before him, shame in his eyes. "I warned them where to find you," Darren said, his voice broken. "I told them your path, your camp, your fight. I betrayed you." Kale's stomach turned, his grip on the rifle shaking. "You?" he whispered, his voice heavy with disbelief. "After everything we bled for?" Darren lowered his gaze, tears freezing on his cheeks. "I was tired of running, Kale. Tired of losing. They promised safety. They promised peace. I thought it was the only way." Lyra's eyes blazed, her voice sharp. "Peace built on chains is not peace. It is death." Her words cut through the storm like a blade, but Darren only bowed his head, unable to look at them. Rogan's laugh rang out, cruel and sharp. "You see, Kale, even your brothers know better. You fight for nothing, while I fight for the winning side." The soldiers raised their weapons, the storm screaming around them. Kale tightened his stance. Lyra lifted her hands, power glowing like fire in the snow. They would not surrender, not here, Not now. The clash was moments away, and above, in the sky, more lights flashed, signals burning across the heavens. The galaxy itself seemed to watch, waiting for the choice that would shape the future. The storm raged louder as Kyle and Lyra stood surrounded, Rogan's soldiers closing in, weapons glowing in the red light. Betrayal hung heavy in the frozen air, Darren lowering his head in shame while Rogan's cruel smile cut deeper than the cold. Kale tightened his grip on his rifle, knowing the odds were hopeless. Lyra's power glowed brighter, though her body trembled from exhaustion. They could fight, yes, but they could not win. Not against this many, not here. Then the ground shook, a deep rumble echoing through the frozen ridge. Snow fell from the cliffs in heavy sheets, rocks split as if the mountain itself were waking. The soldiers paused, their eyes wide, their weapons lowering as the tremor grew stronger. From beneath the ice came a sound, low and haunting, like the roar of something ancient. Lyra's eyes widened, recognition flashing across her face. "It cannot be," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It sleeps he." Even now." Kale looked at her sharply. "What sleeps?" Her gaze locked on the rising cracks in the ice, the glow of strange light shining through. "My people's last ship," she said, trembling. "The Ark of the Forgotten, buried when our empire fell. It should have been lost forever." The ice split open, a blinding light spilling out. Rogan's men staggered back, their faces pale. Out of the abyss rose the massive shape of a ship, ancient and beautiful, carved with symbols that glowed like fire. It pushed through the snow and stone, metal wings spreading as if remembering the stars it once ruled. The Ark hovered above the wasteland, its shadow swallowing the ridge. Lyra fell to her knees, tears burning her eyes. "This is the heart of my people," she whispered. "Their last hope, their last memory." Kale stood beside her, his face hard but steady. "Then it wakes for you, not for them." Rogan's eyes gleamed with hunger, his voice sharp. "Forget the girl. The ship is the prize. Take it, and the galaxy bends to us." The soldiers roared, charging forward toward the glowing ramp that lowered from the Ark. Kale pulled Lyra to her feet. "Move. We have to reach it before them." Her legs shook, but determination burned brighter than weakness. They ran together, snow spraying behind them, while Rogan's men fired into the storm. Bullets cut the air. Beams of light scorched the ground. Kale fired back, his aim true, dropping 2 men before they could reach the ramp. Lyra raised her hands, a blast of energy knocking others into the snow. But still they came, more and more, shadows pouring like a flood toward the Ark. At the base of the ramp, Darren appeared, blocking their path, his weapon shaking in his hands. His voice broke. "Kale, please don't do this. Come with us. Survive. The ship will save everyone if we use it right." Kale's eyes burned. It will not save anyone in their hands. Only enslave. Only destroy. Darren's tears froze on his cheeks, his voice cracking. "Then forgive me." He raised his weapon, but his hands trembled. Before he could fire, Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing with sorrow. "You were once his brother," she said, her voice sharp yet heavy with grief. "But you chose chains over freedom, and now you will carry that weight forever." She unleashed a pulse of light that struck the ground before him, blasting the snow upward. When the white veil cleared, Darren was gone, thrown back into the storm, alive but broken. Kale pulled her up the ramp, their boots pounding against the glowing metal. The Ark's interior hummed with power, walls alive with alien light, symbols shifting like living fire. As they entered, the ship itself seemed to breathe, the air warmer, the floor vibrating with energy. Lyra pressed her hands against a glowing console, her voice trembling as she spoke in her native tongue. The ship answered, lights flaring, engines roaring with ancient strength. Rogan's men tried to climb the ramp, but the Ark shook them loose with a surge of force. The ramp sealed shut, locking Kale and Lyra inside. Rogan's furious voice echoed outside. "You cannot keep it, Kale. The galaxy will tear it from your hands." But his words were drowned by the rising thunder of engines. Inside, Kale watched as the walls shifted, revealing star maps and visions of distant galaxies. He had never seen such power. Not in all his years of war. Lyra stood taller now, her eyes glowing brighter, the weight of her people's legacy burning within her. "This ship carries the memory of my empire," she said, her voice strong. "It carries weapons, knowledge, and the power to change everything." Kale looked at her, his jaw set. "Then we'll use it to survive, to fight back, to make sure no one cages you again." Her heart ached at his words, pride and sorrow, mixing. For the first time, she felt not like a fugitive, but like a queen again, standing with someone who believed. The Ark rose higher, breaking free of the ice, its engines tearing through the storm. The ground shook as Rogan and his men scattered below, their shouts fading. The ship pierced the clouds, soaring into the sky with light brighter than the sun. Kale stood beside Lyra, staring out at the stars that opened before them. He felt the weight of history, the burden of power, but also the spark of something new. Together, human and alien had awakened a force the galaxy had forgotten, and now the galaxy would tremble, for the Ark had risen, and with it, hope had risen too. The Ark of the Forgotten soared through the storm, breaking into clear skies where the stars burned bright. Inside, Kale and Lyra stood together, the alien ship alive around them, its walls glowing with power that pulsed like a beating heart. The ship carried memory, strength, and wrath, a vessel of a fallen empire reborn. But outside, the galaxy was already moving to claim it. Alarms lit up across the consoles, red lights flashing. Lyra's hands touched the controls, her voice trembling. They are coming. Fleets from the human colonies, fleets from the other empires. They will not let this ship fly free. Kale tightened his grip on his rifle, though he knew bullets were nothing against warships. We will make them fight for every inch, he said firmly, his scarred face set like stone. The Ark answered to Lyra's touch, its engines burning brighter. She closed her eyes, connecting to the memory core within the ship. Visions flooded her mind, her ancestors, their battles, their triumphs, their fall. Her body shook, her voice breaking. They live inside this ship, Kale. Their voices guide me. I am not alone. Kale stepped closer, steadying her, his hand firm on her shoulder. You are not alone now, he said, his voice low but full of fire. Not while I breathe. Her heart trembled at his words, warmth cutting. Through the endless cold of exile, in that moment she believed not in the past but in the future. The first enemy fleet appeared above the clouds, ships like dark blades cutting through the sky, weapons charged, beams glowing with deadly light. The Ark shuddered as fire rained down, explosions rocking its frame. Kale braced himself, gripping the railing, his teeth clenched, but Lyra lifted her hands, her eyes blazing violet. The ship responded, shields flaring to life, a dome of light swallowing the blasts. Then cannons awoke. Ancient weapons of terrifying beauty, bolts of energy streaked through the void, ripping enemy ships apart. The sky burned with fire, thunder, and light. Kale watched in awe, his voice hushed. This is more than a ship. It's a god of war. Yet more fleets came, wave after wave, the galaxy pouring its armies into the chase. Rogan's voice echoed across the comms, cruel and sharp. Kale, surrender the alien and the Ark, and I may let you crawl away alive. Kale spat onto the floor, his voice cold. Come take her yourself. The comms hissed with Rogan's laughter, promising blood. The Ark roared, tearing through the blockade. But inside, Lyra staggered, her power draining, her body trembling from the strain of guiding such force. Kale caught her before she fell, his voice urgent. You cannot do this alone. It will kill you. She looked up at him, her eyes glowing weak but fierce. I must, Kale. This is my burden, my people's curse. No, Kale said, his voice breaking. It is not just yours anymore. It is ours. His words struck deeper than any weapon. For the first time, Lyra felt her burden was not a chain she carried alone, but something shared. She reached out, her hand gripping his. The Ark's lights flared brighter, as if recognizing their bond, their unity. Together, human and alien guided the ship. Through Kale's focus and Lyra's fire, the Ark moved like a living star. It struck harder, faster, breaking fleets apart, shattering armies that thought themselves unstoppable. The galaxy watched as one human and one alien turned the tide of power. Hope spread like wildfire, carried by whispers, carried by fear. But Rogan would not be denied. His warship descended black and sharp, its weapons massive, its engines screaming. He stood on its bridge, his eyes burning with hunger. I will tear the Ark from their hands, even if I must kill the stars to do it. His cannons fired, beams crashing into the Ark, shaking its frame. Lyra screamed, her body straining to hold the shields. Kale roared, firing back with the Ark's weapons, light tearing through Rogan's fleet. The battle was thunder and fire, storm and blood. The sky itself seemed to burn as the two forces clashed. But at last, the Ark's power surged, ancient and unstoppable. A final blast erupted, swallowing Rogan's ship in fire. The black vessel broke apart, falling in flames into the endless clouds below. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the Ark. The fleet scattered, their courage broken. The galaxy that had hunted Lyra now trembled before her. The cage was gone, the chains shattered. Kale stood beside her, his face tired but strong. Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing soft, filled with something new. "You changed everything," she whispered. "One human who saw me not as a curse, not as a prize, but as a person." Her voice shook, her pride broken, but her heart free. Kale met her gaze, his voice steady. "No, Lyra, you changed me too. We saved each other." The arc drifted higher, leaving the battlefield behind. For the first time in years, Lyra felt hope not for herself alone, but for the future. For the bond between them was stronger than empires, stronger than fear. Together, they would face what came. Together, they would build something new. And across the stars, whispers spread of the alien queen who rose from ashes and the human who refused to let her die forgotten. The galaxy would never be the same again, because one man cared when no one else did.